JD Vance, your vice president, spent a lot of time yesterday calling out left-wing violence and the rhetoric from the left that inspires it. And of course, his opponents in the media hate him for it. They didn't have much to say about the violence, no, but they're angry that JD Vance has noticed all the things they're saying that brings out the violence. We're going to show you what Vance said and their reaction coming up in a moment. And incredible showdown between Jessica Tarlov and Greg Gutfeld yesterday on the 5, where once again, Tarlov tried to both sides it on this whole violent rhetoric thing, and Gutfeld, he had it up to here. Well, actually, he's kind of short, so he's had it up to there. We're going to show you that fiery exchange and a remarkable turnaround in the governor's race in New Jersey. New poll shows it tied, and we have an idea why the Democrat candidate is failing. Wait till you see her appearances in the media and on the debate stage. She's a disaster, and it's glorious. We're going to show you all that coming up now. I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Like, subscribe, alerts, comment, done. And we'll get to your super chats coming up in a little bit. When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Maybe I should have done it, last week. Well, do it now. Whether as a hedge against inflation or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold, and they want to make it easy for you, putting out a bit of an incentive until September 30th, 5 days from now. If you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals. That's on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit now. Just text my name, Larry, to 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, and you're still eligible for that rebate in free metals of up to $10,000. Make right now the time for you to contact Birch Gold. Take advantage of this rebate up to $10,000 when you buy by September 30th. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. That's Larry to 989898. Do it today. Have you liked this yet? Give us a like. Come on. I know you like this show. Thumbs up, everybody, right now. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to say a damn thing until you like us. There it is. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. There's a whole lot of hate on the left, and they're not even concealing it anymore. What JD Vance did to call them out on it, and then their reaction to it, it was insane yesterday. How dare JD Vance notice that people want he and his friends killed for their political beliefs? He should know better. And I do mean hate, by the way, palpable hate. I mean, just look at Joy Reid, whose media career has been reduced to a Substack and a YouTube channel, which, listen, nothing wrong with a Substack and YouTube channel, but she used to make millions on cable news. Now she's talking to that guy, Don Lemon. And when the subject of JD Vance came out, well, Joy Reid said the quiet part out loud.
I can't stand JD Vance. Let's just be clear. There's nothing he could do. He could literally rescue my cat out of a burning building, and I would still hate JD Vance.
There you go. She hates JD Vance. Again, up until about 7 months ago, she was a member of good standing of the mainstream media. And her show and her political beliefs were celebrated. I mean, they're celebrated here. Look at Don Lemon giggling like a little schoolgirl over Joy Reid's reaction to JD Vance. How'd she put that again?
I can't stand JD Vance. Let's just be clear. There's nothing he could do. He could literally rescue my cat out of a burning building, and I would still hate JD Vance.
Well, you won't have to worry about that scenario because I assure you, JD Vance will not rescue your cat out of a burning building. He will stand there and watch your cat die, burned to a crisp. You're welcome. By the way, Joy Reid's career is doing so well, and Kamala Harris's book tour is going so well that their worlds collided yesterday. That's right. On the second day of Kamala Harris's multimedia, sky-high attention-getting book tour, on day 2, she appeared on Joy Reid's YouTube show, which is weird because everybody knows that the audience for Joy Reid's YouTube channel can't read. But there you have it. So why is everyone so upset about JD Vance? Well, because he dared to notice what was happening in this country. And he said so yesterday in Concord, North Carolina.
Just yesterday, NBC News, maybe the worst of all the fake news, and I'm sure we have an NBC reporter out there. It's a tough competition, my friends, to be clear. But maybe the worst, I said maybe the worst, is NBC News. And they said that immigration enforcement, you know what they said? That immigration enforcement had detained a 5-year-old autistic girl in order to get to that girl's father. Turned out that story was a complete fabrication. It was a complete dishonest lie. But when you go around and lie about our law enforcement and you tell them that they're mistreating 5-year-old girls, what do you think is going to happen? When Democratic politicians incur doxing, when they encourage us to unmask ICE enforcement officers, what do you think is going to happen? When the mayor of Los Angeles encourages violent protesters to get in the face of our law enforcement, what do you think is going to happen? What's going to happen is political violence, and political violence has gotten out of control in this country. We got to stop it. We got to condemn it. And that starts, unfortunately, at the very top of the Democratic Party. If you want to stop political violence, stop attacking our law enforcement as the Gestapo. If you want to stop political violence, stop telling your supporters that everybody who disagrees with you is a Nazi. If you want to stop political violence, look in the mirror. That's the way that we stop political violence in this country, and we got to do it.
Yeah, they hate him because he's telling the truth. They hate him because he's actually holding up a mirror and showing them and letting them hear exactly what they're saying, and then the results of their violent rhetoric. That's why they hate him. And of course, this comes on the heels of the shooting of an ICE facility yesterday that left several dead. The war on law enforcement, federal law enforcement, continues unabated. And we played you the words of Gavin Newsom the night before the shooting on yesterday's show. Gavin Newsom told lie after lie after lie, including the lie about a disabled little girl being detained by ICE. It's a lie. That people being snatched off the street in broad daylight and disappeared. It's a lie. All of it, it's all lies. And are we surprised when somebody is motivated then to take the law into their own hands and act out violently? Vance is done with this game. We've seen too much blood in the streets because of this unmitigated, unbridled hate on the left. They get some sort of political benefit out of drumming up this kind of hatred. And it ends now, says the vice president.
Because here's what happens. Because here's what happens when Democrats like Gavin Newsom did say that these people are part of an authoritarian government. When the left-wing media lies about what they're doing, when they lie about who they're arresting, when they lie about the actual job of law enforcement, what they're doing is encouraging crazy people to go and commit violence. You don't have to agree with my immigration policies. You don't have to agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies. But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell, and you have no place in the political conversation of the United States of America.
I don't know about you, but I voted for that. That is precisely what I voted for. You don't agree with me? That's fine. You use rhetoric that gets my friends and cops killed, go to hell. Can we fit that on a bumper sticker? Are you ready to vote yet in the next election? So our friends in the mainstream corporate legacy media, they see what's going on. They see violent political rhetoric encouraging a kid to pick up a gun and put a bullet in the throat of Charlie Kirk and murder him in cold blood. They see political rhetoric inspiring a dude to pick up a rifle and start shooting indiscriminately into an ICE vehicle, killing people in cold blood. And then they see the vice president of the United States calling it out. And of course, they see what the problem is. They see who the real enemy is. They finally have recognized what the problem is. Joe and Mika this morning, identifying and honing in on what needs to stop, what the real issue is here. It's JD Vance. He needs to stop talking.
And why? Why do they do this? Like, why is it so important for them? Instead of trying to bring the country together, Why is it so important for them to try to tear us apart? Why are they doing this? Why is JD Vance continuing to lie when Cato, when CSIS, when every other study shows that the predominance of political violence in America has come from the right? And again, you don't hear me saying, oh, this is all the Republicans' fault. What you hear me saying is these people are crazy, and we, the 90% of the sane people in America, we need to come together.
Did you know that those studies that say that the predominance of violence in America is coming from the right do not consider the arson and looting and mayhem and, yes, manslaughter and murders that occurred during the George Floyd Black Lives Matter riots? They don't consider those politically motivated violence. Yeah. You know, when you don't count left-wing violence motivated by left-wing politics as left-wing violence motivated by left-wing politics, it's pretty easy to come up with a study that says that all the violence in this country is motivated from political rhetoric on the right. But we all saw Black Lives Matter. We saw the George Floyd riots. We know exactly what it was, and we know what it was motivated by. And they don't consider that left-wing violence. They don't consider Antifa violence left-wing violence. But yeah, we should definitely trust all of those studies and all of those reports. More on these bogus studies coming up in a minute. But that's Joe Scarborough figuring out exactly what the real problem is. JD Vance line. It's like you hand the gun to someone and you encourage them to murder someone. And then all the friends and family of the person who got murdered are now expected to be the ones to unify all of us and bring us together. That's Joe Scarborough. Why aren't they doing anything to bring us together? Well, forgive me for not bending over backwards to try to bring us together at this moment. We're still cleaning up the pools of blood on the ground from our friend who got murdered. We're kind of busy. Why aren't you trying to unify us? Well, you know what? You could have come down to the memorial in Arizona and prayed with all of us and had a conversation with, hey, Joe, when you say, why aren't we trying to unify us? I have a question. Who's there at your round table there that speaks for us? Who is invited to come and sit there every morning in your conversation who actually represents us and he can speak on our behalf? And by the way, since we, based on the last election in this country, represent over 50% of the electorate, maybe it shouldn't just be one person sitting at that table. Maybe half of the people sitting at that table should speak on our behalf and represent us. No, but it's incumbent on us to try to bring the country together, even though we're the ones who were the targets of your violence. It's an amazing little setup you've got there, Joe. Go ahead, finish up your thought.
And move the country beyond this and be a better example for all. I don't know.
That's leadership. What we saw from JD Vance is not leadership.
Actually, I think it was great leadership. I'm on board with it. And so are the majority of Americans. That's where these guys have it wrong. But they weren't the only ones. That was this morning on MSNBC. Last night on CNN, lamentably, same thing. JD Vance isn't helping anything by telling the truth.
Look, this is extremely disturbing that there's another one of these types of shootings. I think we've got to deal with this as a country, first of all. But I also, just for starters, I'm curious, how does it help to have the vice president say that?
Because the third one in Texas. I mean, if you know people that work in law enforcement, my family does. I know ICE agents in Texas. This is the third attack we've seen in Texas, in the same district as the man in charge today was saying. Like, this is the second time he's had to have a press conference today.
Who was killed today? Who was killed today?
So you're saying since it
That's
wasn't,
not what I'm at. No.
So you're saying since it wasn't, it was innocent people that were killed today.
Don't put words in my mouth.
You asked a question.
Yeah,
I'm answering your question. You're saying since it wasn't ICE agents that were killed, therefore it's a null and void conversation?
No. That's not what I'm saying at all. And that's gaslighting. I'm asking you a simple question because when JD Vance...
No, he's the one gaslighting. Just so you know, the victims yesterday of the indiscriminate gunshot fired into a ICE vehicle happened to be detainees who were being processed and repatriated to their country. So he's saying, hey, cops weren't killed, so what the hell are you bitching about? Cops weren't killed here. The bullets said anti-ICE slogans on them. and the guy was motivated by left-wing politics, and he's trying, what kind of smart ass point are you trying to make here by rhetorically asking, well, who was shot today? And Ben Ferguson rightly jumps to the conclusion, what, so cops miraculously didn't get shot and that somehow makes everything okay? Or are you saying that this guy was actually motivated in trying to kill the illegal aliens and he's actually a MAGA guy? What are you saying here? And he's like, well, I'm just asking. Don't be gaslighting. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm just asking. What a fool. And by the way, let the record reflect, he interrupted Ben Ferguson to try to make this point, which is nonsense.
Up there, when JD Vance went up there, and when you're coming
not
up
a
here,
good argument from you.
first of all, I am
Innocent people got shot today, and you're like, well, it wasn't ICE agents that got shot.
Not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the division that you all are sowing in this country.
I'm not sowing anything. I'm saying protect all law enforcement.
Because of the simple fact, yes,
Gavin Newsom went on TV last night. Did you see what he said? He said, ICE agents are authoritarian. You don't think that can inspire someone to do that?
ICE agents should be able to come home every single night. And
well,
so don't put words in my mouth. I am acting like it, first. And second, the fact that you and JD Vance and every other Republican can go on here and talk about—
We're not shooting people. But we're not shooting people. The left is shooting people, and they're being inspired by that.
That is the low.
I'm sorry. I have a friend that got shot and assassinated 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I'm a little bit hot on this one because you guys have been irresponsible with the rhetoric that is coming out from people on the left. Gavin Newsom went on TV last night. Gavin Newsom went on TV last night and disparaged ICE agents, attacked ICE agents, said they're authoritarian.
But before you even get to the
evidence,
the evidence,
one second. Watch what he said last night on late night television.
I'm not talking about that, Ben, because you come on here and you gaslight. And
I'm not gaslighting. I don't want innocent people to die.
Let me finish my sentence, please. You come on here and you gaslight and you put words in my mouth. And that's not what I said.
You interrupted me and said you got
can you just let him finish? Ben, in the
interest,
the question is, in the interest of finishing this conversation,
what I want you to do is not only lift up those—
Sorry, can't let it go. Abby Phillip, please, Ben, let the man who interrupted you with his nonsense finish what he was saying. Did he interrupted Ferguson? This show is such a freaking dumpster fire. Abby Phillips is embarrassing. Go ahead. Yeah, let's let him finish.
And you put words in my mouth, and that's not what I said.
You interrupted me and said you got
can you just let him finish? Ben, in the
because the question is,
Ben, in the interest of finishing this conversation,
what I want you to do is not only lift up those ICE agents. What I'm trying to get you to do is also lift up those people who were killed. Because when you do not lift up those people who were killed, as well as those law enforcement officers, you sow division in this country. Right. And that's what I'm saying.
Let me say this.
Here's where I agree
Abby,
with
let me say this. Look at the bullets that are on the ground.
Here's where I agree. Here's where I agree with Ben.
Hit a pause on that and let other.
Here's where I agree with Ben. All right. When the goal clearly was to hurt ICE agents, it matters. And I think that applies not just to ICE, but to law enforcement across the country. We should be angrier when law enforcement are targeted in this country.
Thank you.
Period. Now, that is a separate issue from linking rhetoric to saying that's why this has happened. They're doing this.
It was written on the bullets.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean
you don't have to connect dots here.
Of course
he wrote
do.
it down so he didn't have to connect dots.
I know his motives. I'm not questioning his motives.
So then the motive was anti-ICE rhetoric.
Well, did it say rhetoric on the? Because I thought
it said anti-ICE, and when you have people out there literally 8 hours earlier,
right? So, but here's what
attacking ICE agents.
I'm not going to hold people accountable for everything someone else says and say, oh, well, this guy must have done it because this guy said it over there. Again, there's way too much attacks on law enforcement in this country.
Coming from who, though, Dan?
Coming from a whole range.
Show me a Republican elected official that has attacked ICE or law enforcement for doing their job.
How about the Capitol Police?
I said, give me a.
You said a Republican who said.
I said of ICE agents right now. You're going back.
Or law enforcement. No, you said or law enforcement.
ICE agents.
Yeah, no, ICE agents.
January 6th. They just can't quit January 6th. The Ben Ferguson's great performance last night on CNN continued here. So let's keep watching.
Every time one of these tragic shootings happens, everybody's at each other's throats about which side did it, but we're missing a broader pattern in America. This was another young white dude who's in his 20s. We have seen this pattern accelerating over the past decade. The same day Charlie Kirk was shot, the same exact time, there was a neo-Nazi who shot up a school in Colorado. We can look at the acceleration of the radicalization of young men through a few frameworks. There's the COVID pandemic, which had people isolated, had a bubble around themselves, and a lot of young men failed to pull that bubble down and got sucked down these algorithms. I've seen it happen to my close friends. They get sucked down these algorithms. We have foreign actors trying to sow chaos in America, sow division. How much does Putin salivate when he sees us at each other's throats? Then we have domestic actors, people like Elon Musk, riling it up. So all of these factors, wait, hold up, Ben. All of these factors come together to create this pattern that we see of young men in my age range committing these shootings. And if you want to sit here and go back and forth, tit for tat, I can say Dylan Roof, Robert Bowers, John Earnest, none of these were black people. None of these were trans people. None of these were even Democrats. These were neo-Nazis who had things carved into their guns. You can sit here and muddy the waters, but you are just lying.
I just don't want innocent people to die. Sue me for that.
Then maybe tell Trump to tone down his rhetoric.
If you think this is Trump, this is exactly you literally just did your entire argument. So Abby, let me go back.
Can I make something that might be a little bit more controversial than that?
Hold on a second.
Sure, go ahead.
This is the part that should not be this hard.
He says he hates his enemies.
Hold on, Adam.
Who says he hates his
This is
enemies?
the part that should not be this hard for people to understand. After the assassination of my friend Charlie Kirk, I would hope, and after multiple attacks on ICE facilities, I would hope that leaders of the Democratic Party, and one of those leaders is Gavin Newsom, would know better than to go on TV and to say that ICE agents are the bad guys and that they're authoritarian, and then expect that no one's going to listen to what he's saying or respond to it.
Okay.
There should be more
Let me
accountability
just ask
for
you a
that.
question about that, okay? Because I think at the heart of so much of this is your insistence that using certain words leads to violence. Is that what you're saying?
Calling people fascists and Nazis
All right.
and authoritarian, yeah.
So when
they write it
Rand,
on their
okay, so when
bullets, yes.
Rand Paul,
That's right. When the exact same slogans that people are calling you and me and Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump and JD Vance and Ben Ferguson are then written on the bullets that were used to murder Charlie Kirk, yeah, maybe it's okay to draw that conclusion. And I know everybody likes to point to a school shooting that happened in Colorado on the same day. There's no evidence, by the way, linking his motives, which, yeah, school shootings are awful. There's a whole lot involved in school shootings, but there's no evidence linking violent political rhetoric or political ideology to those murders in Colorado, but they throw that out there as if there is. But let's just look at the last couple of weeks. We had a Catholic school in Minnesota shot up, 2 dead, 21 injured, by a person who was motivated by transgender ideology. And yes, he wrote political slogans against Donald Trump and against Christians on his guns and on his ammo. They assassinated Charlie Kirk, and they immediately blamed MAGA for assassinating Charlie Kirk. They celebrated Charlie Kirk's murder. Everybody wants to point out and say, oh, yeah, there's a problem on both sides. One side celebrates the assassinations when the violence happens. They defended the celebrations. They joked about the celebrations. While at the same time, a local television station got shot up for not airing Jimmy Kimmel's show. A Fox News van found an explosive underneath it the day covering Charlie Kirk's murder. A wedding was shot up the next day by a shooter shouting "Free Palestine." And then ICE agents yesterday got targeted. But it's a problem on both sides. And in that litany that they just tried to throw out there, they had to throw Dylan Roof. That was 10 years ago. And by the way, we'll talk about Dylan Roof later in the show, but there's actually no evidence to show that he was motivated by any political entity. He was motivated by his own racism. And our reaction to Dylan Roof, those of us on the right, was quite different than what we've seen in the last 2 weeks about Charlie Kirk. Sorry for pointing out facts here to put these things in context, but this guy from Midas Touch TV, which is a left-wing outlet, he's going to have his moment with Ben.
What I didn't like about what I saw from Jimmy Kimmel last night is the fact that he has more passion for this issue than he did for showing compassion for Charlie Kirk's widow and the Kirk family. And then he says it was just a joke. I think it's sad that there was this much rallying around him emotionally as he got last night and still refuses to show any compassion to the Kirk family. Let me just
what he said before, though. But 2 days before that, he denounced the people who are celebrating. He went after them on his show.
So he lied on his show.
He got it wrong, no doubt about it.
No, he lied on his show.
But he also talked
and we
about,
knew what
but
was.
last
what
night,
hold on, wait,
I mean,
wait,
did you see the part of the reason I'm interrupting you is because did you see the part of the monologue where he talked about about Erica Kirk. He choked up when he was talking about her
Sometimes
speech
in
at
life,
the
you just
memorial
say,
service.
I'm sorry.
I understand what you're saying, but
It's not
I think to
hard.
suggest that he was cold.
He was cold
to the Kirk
because
family. I don't think is
it wasn't
accurate.
warm. This is the delusion of this conversation. He literally said that he was killed by somebody that was in MAGA. That was a lie. We knew that wasn't true, and he refused to apologize.
Let me ask you
All
let me ask you a
real
question.
men,
So
real
did-
men
all right,
with integrity
so-
walk
fine,
out
fair
there
enough,
and say,
I'm sorry.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So has Don Jr. and Elon Musk and Senator Mike Lee apologized for saying that the Minnesota shooter was on the left?
I don't know if they have or not.
Okay, they haven't.
They have
Okay.
not.
So my
in
point
that
is,
case,
it's the exact same
I'm okay
thing.
with that. But Jimmy Kimmel,
You're
I
okay
think
with
you can agree, this was a bigger issue at the moment.
It got more attention.
A lot more. He was crying on set.
But this was also a
He's
political.
crying on set,
Minnesota's
not
relevant.
crying for Charlie Kirk
But not
or
only
his
Minnesota,
wife.
but not
crying
only,
because
but not
woe
only,
is me in my career.
This is why
That is correct. That's the only reason. And we covered that yesterday. Although Charlie Kirk's appearance is getting quite a bit of attention later in the day after our show, like CNN's reaction. And by the way, the aforementioned JD Vance, who I think pretty succinctly explained why many of us are not satisfied with Mr. Kimmel's performance and his pretend act of contrition, even though he never actually said he was contrite. And yet somehow people in the media are giving him credit. You even see people saying that he apologized when, of course, definitively he did not apologize. Vice President Vance explains it.
He didn't actually say sorry to Charlie Kirk or his family. And the reason that so many people, including me, were so upset with what Jimmy Kimmel said is that he accused Charlie Kirk's murderer of being a MAGA or a right-wing American. It wasn't a joke. It was straight up disinformation. And I really wish Jimmy Kimmel would apologize for it.
Yeah, exactly. And so here's the thing. And we're just in the interest of bringing our country together and sort of getting over the divide, we'd like to help Jimmy Kimmel out here. Apparently, instead of just making fun of him and mocking him and calling him on his bullshit like we did yesterday, apparently it could actually move this country forward in a more hospitable and constructive conversation if Jimmy Kimmel actually stepped up and delivered a message that would be open and welcome from those of us who feel angry and hurt by what he's done. See, here's the thing. We all get it wrong sometimes, right? I mean, I remember when the whole Paul Pelosi story was coming out and there was a fog of war and lots of weird information. We had a local NBC reporter, who was covering the story, who said that the police described a very different scene than the security camera or body cameras from the cops were going to show. Remember that? Remember how we were getting all these different misinformation stories about this? And they immediately said, by the way, that this was a politically motivated act against Paul Pelosi, which it was not. The guy was a Looney Tunes homeless dude who had BLM posters on his building, and God knows why he entered Paul Pelosi's house. But a lot of people extended themselves, went out there, suggested that it was one thing when it turns out it might not have been those things, and they got it wrong. See? And it's funny, when you go back to that moment in time, there were a lot of people on the left and in the media who believed conservative commentators and elected officials should have just come out and said, listen, this whole Paul Pelosi thing, we thought it was one thing. Turns out it might not have been that thing. We were getting a lot of misinformation. We got it wrong. And we're sorry about that. And Jimmy Kimmel now should probably do something like that. In fact, hang on. Hey, Jimmy, are you watching? Jimmy Kimmel, anybody in Jimmy Kimmel's production team, writers or anything? I know it's early on the West Coast, but you're up now. It's not like you're up late partying or celebrating anything these days out there. Listen, we want to help you out. We've got some advice about how to properly acknowledge you got something wrong and just sincerely apologize, okay? We're going to give you that advice, not from me, but from an expert, someone that maybe you'll listen to and respect. This guy,
82-year-old man, has been attacked in his bed in his home by a person who obviously has some problems, and our first reaction isn't, oh my goodness, even if they're lying, even if they're pretending to have concern, how can the reaction possibly be? How can we move so quickly to smearing these people, to trying to create some? And by the way, now that the police report is out, I haven't exactly seen Elon Musk or Donald Trump or Donnie Jr. correcting them and saying, oh my goodness, now that we read the facts of the story, Certainly, we feel terrible that we spread these vicious lies around, and we retract them and apologize to the Pelosi family. No, you'll never see that. When an apology isn't even offered, listen, these people are supposed to be Christians. I am a Catholic. I grew up in the church. What I was taught was that if you do something wrong, you ask for forgiveness, and you are forgiven for these things. The idea that it would be anything other than that these people who are allegedly following the teachings of Jesus would behave in this way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any sense at all, and I just can't understand how that works for so many people, so many Americans.
Yeah, I agree. Well said, sir. It's Jimmy Kimmel 2022. What's the difference? Is there one? There you go, Jimmy, team on Kimmel's writer staff. Do you get it now? Follow that guy's advice. That's what you do. It's all it takes. Try not to be quite as smug and sanctimonious as that guy was, but you can still get it done. I believe in you. After all, he's Christian. Do you ever notice how many Christians on the left politically in this country don't really talk about Jesus much, except when they invoke his name to try to publicly shame conservatives for not living up to their belief of what a Christian standard is? Otherwise, not a whole lot of talk about Jesus or scripture or our faith or Christian values. But boy, the second they think they've got you and that you haven't lived up to what they believe your Christian values are, boom, just got nothing but Jesus talk from them. Funny how that works. Yesterday on The Five, the subject of Jimmy Kimmel's non-apology and the political violent rhetoric coming from the left and lefties acting out on that political rhetoric, leaving conservatives and law enforcement agents in pools of blood as a result. It became the central topic of conversation between an incredible exchange with Greg Gutfeld and Jessica Tarlov. Watch this.
Nazis, you've never done that, but there are people in your party that have done that. Do you think that's responsible?
Listen, I think that fascism and fascist is a very special category of people, and you should use it when it's really applicable and sparingly, because then people will believe you when you say it. And it has become too common to hear words like that. And that is a both sides problem. And last week we went through the litany of times that Donald Trump has used that rhetoric, and the fact that he came out after Charlie Kirk's tragic assassination and said the radical left did this. And then we heard a chorus of "we are at war." And that does permeate the entirety of American society, that they hear that from the top. We don't know
garbage.
that much.
That is absolute garbage.
It is
Continue. When something terrible happens,
Greg,
when somebody gets murdered, you are saying, "How dare you be enraged by it?" Continue.
No, what I say is, how dare
there is
you
no. I'll give you the both.
blame
No, Jessica, I'll give you the both sides.
Greg, why
I agree with you. There is both sides. On one hand, you have the hard left, and on the other hand, you have the left.
Why are you?
They're the both sides of the same coin, because you walk into this room and you're not reading it. There is no both sides. You don't have the evidence for that.
That's not true.
You
Who
can't
shot up
say
the
that Donald Trump
CDC and
says
killed
this.
someone?
You guys act on it. You guys act on it. We don't. What do you want?
What do I want? I would like to talk about the specifics of who Vance Bolter actually was, since we fought about that last time, because you make it out as if this was just that he knew Melissa Hortman.
Let's focus on this thing now. I'll destroy you on that later.
No.
But focus on this now. You want to go back?
Focus on this now. This looks like a kid that was inflamed either by the leftist cabal, or maybe he used his own eyes. And maybe he saw what's going on. Maybe there are people in his community who are being picked up by people from ICE. Maybe he saw raids at Home Depot. Or maybe he did hear J.B. Pritzker. He seems like a Morning Joe viewer to me, right? Someone who had tuned in, saw Hillary Clinton, and then went out and grabbed his gun. The common denominator in all of this is that we have young men, usually young white men, who have access to these guns and are carrying out these tragedies. They are nihilists. They live online. And again, do you think it's normal that people are writing on casings anti-ICE, they think that it's a joke. You look at Tyler Robinson's text messages with his roommate and partner, it reads like a joke. They just wanted us on Fox News to have to be able to read that stuff out loud. He even said it in the messages. So I get it. You're amped up. I don't think that I said anything worthy of that level of explosion.
Your rationalization of both sides is you have to understand. Since Kurt's death, there is no both sides anymore, Jessica.
Why did the DOJ take down the study that showed how much right-wing extremism?
What study was that? Which one? The one in The Economist that was sponsored by a group run by a guy in Antifa? That study that has been discredited by the Federalists? You're walking down a really bad alley right now.
Federalists?
Yes. I actually did see, Jessica, I did the deep dive on that study. That study was authored by a project that was run by a guy who says he was an Antifa. That is why that whole thing has been scrubbed, okay?
All right, let's jump in here on this because it's certainly a talking point that you're going to hear a lot. I've been hearing it a lot. The Justice Department deleted a report off their website that pointed to right-wing groups as the real violent problem in America. All right, so he's right. Gutfeld's completely right. The Federalists did do it. And by the way, you heard Jessica Tarlov sneering. Oh, the Federalists. Let me tell you something. The Federalists and we at Town Hall Media, we get more right than the New York Times does these days. Don't sneer at the Federalists. Just because it's on the Federalists, that's just because your pals in mainstream corporate legacy media refuse to look at stories like this and actually dive deep into what's behind them. Yes, the Federalists broke this down incredibly properly. The study that you're citing about right-wing violence is full of fake data, and the origins of this report are remarkable. One of the authors of the report is himself an anarchist and self-identified Antifa supporter. And we're supposed to take this report seriously? Frankly, you should be outraged that under Alejandro Mayorkas at DHS and under Joe Biden as president, your tax dollars were spent to fund this bogus report. Here is the Media Research Center's breakdown of this report. How Biden's DHS is weaponizing an anti-terror program against conservative Christians and the GOP. They got a FOIA request on all of the background information that led to this report that this DOJ has removed because it's garbage. This is a detailed expose using FOIA requests to find out that they specifically solicited left-wing groups with ties to Antifa to create the narrative that violence is coming from the right. My favorite is this. It's the pyramid of far-right radicalization. At the bottom of the pyramid is the Republican Party, the National Rifle Association, CPAC, Heritage Foundation, and Fox News. And then one level up, well, looky there. It's Turning Point USA alongside Breitbart. And then it keeps towering up into the pyramid. Just above Turning Point USA, I see a swastika. So sure. You want to point to your report that tells us that right-wing violence is responsible for political violence in this country, and it's predominantly coming from conservatives. And in that very report, you cite Charlie Kirk's organization as the second tier on the pyramid of far-right radicalization. The very report that you're pointing at, that you're upset about the DOJ removing from their website, could actually be Exhibit B in how left-wing lunatics are motivated to kill people like Charlie Kirk. You're pointing to a bogus report written by an Antifa admirer that says the real problem in this country is Turning Point USA. Look at them. They're just like Nazis. That very report is an example of how you motivate violence against us. You jerks. Yes, the man behind it, his name And this, by the way, this Federalist article also points to the Media Research Center expose on it. His name is Mr. Lodenthal, Michael Lodenthal, a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Cincinnati, who by his own admission is a far-left violent extremist. He spoke at a white nationalism workshop in 21 and an extremism rhetoric and democratic precarity roundtable at the university's Social Practice of Human Rights Conference. See, all they do is have these roundtables and these studies and then symposiums. It's sponsored by left-wing colleges and universities. They get grants from left-wing foundations, and then they have these studies and symposiums and reports about how violent conservatives are. They're not getting any funding or any reports about left-wing extremism. In fact, they pretend left-wing extremism doesn't exist, and then they invite to speak at these symposiums people who are actually engaged in left-wing extremism, like Professor Lodenthal, apparently. During the white nationalism workshop, Lodenthal introduced himself by stating he is militant Antifa. He then continued his talk by teaching audience members how to securely dox people to their employers. He detailed how he uses a VPN, burner phones, encrypted communications, and sock puppet accounts to dox people. And throughout the talk, he framed his work in explicitly anti-fascist terms, explaining how he employs anti-fascist intelligence to dox individuals online and in real life. He detailed what anti-fascists do with that information. We contact employers, landlords, commanding officers, school officials, family clergy, and we pressure service providers like PayPal, GoFundMe, Patreon, and Amazon, and people will kick people off. When asked during the question and answers section how people can help his work, he stated, donate money. We have defense funds because we get into trouble. A lot of the things we're doing are illegal. A lot of it involves breaking the law. That's who the DHS hired to contribute to the report that now liberals like Jessica Tarlov are screaming about because the DOJ, in their wisdom, said, we want nothing to do with this garbage. But see, you won't hear any of that I just told you. All you'll hear is Rachel Maddow looking very serious, furrowing her brow, reading her teleprompter to you on MSNBC, saying Trump's totalitarian DOJ has removed this report from their website because it's evidence of right-wing violence in America. Jessica made a big mistake bringing that up. She also made a big mistake a little later in this exchange. Let's watch it, and then we'll discuss.
Show going like, you know what? We need to go.
Oops, I moved the slider way too far. Sorry.
They take down the study that showed how much right-wing
What study was that? Which one? The one in The Economist that was sponsored by a group run by a guy in Antifa? That study that has been discredited by the Federalists? You're walking down a really bad alley right now.
Federalists?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually did see, Jessica, I did the deep dive on that study. That study was authored by a project that was run by a guy who says he was an Antifa. That is why that whole thing has been scrubbed, okay? It's real simple. You label someone a fascist or a racist or a Nazi, it makes you free to attack them, and that has been the ideology from the start. It's weird.
So why?
No. Let me talk.
Trump does it.
What?
Just tell me why it's okay.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Great. I'm enjoying this.
Okay. You won't be for long. The left calls Trump a hate monger. They have called me a hate monger because I ridicule the left. I ridicule protesters. I ridicule academia, Hollywood, the news media. I make fun of The View every day. I make fun of the UN. Guess what? No one acts on the things that I say because my side doesn't do that. We say people are stupid. We say people are wrong, but we don't say they're evil. That is your game, okay? And then you come and you say, okay, man, this is a mentally ill loner. Well, who do you think does this stuff? It's not Ben Affleck. It's not Tom Brady. It's not even Carrot Top. People who do this stuff are always that way. The question is, who points them in that direction? Why pick ICE? Why pick Kirk? Why target TV stations and put bombs under Fox trucks? Huh? Why vandalize memorials? Why kill kids in Catholic schools? Two things can be true. A person can be mentally ill, and you can be guiding him to that place in his life. That is how brainwashing works.
There is a litany of examples. That
You will
are
not
willing-
have them. If I gave you 2 months to look for them, you couldn't
Really?
find them because they've been debunked.
Really?
You have one thing.
The
If you
guy
want to
who
talk
came
about,
and killed
if you want to
Esther
talk a minute,
Salas's son has been debunked. Dylan Roof has been debunked. Vance Bolter and his list
Vance
of
Bolter,
dozens.
All right, so there she goes. It's time for her to give her litany of crazy far-right influenced violence. And the second name was Dylan Roof. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're about to give us a litany of all the violence inspired by MAGA and Donald Trump, and one of them is the shooter in Minnesota where his motives are murky at best. He claims he was doing it at the behest of Tim Walz. There seems to be a whole lot of deep dive going on there with who this guy was, but there's nothing that suggests that he was motivated by Donald Trump, MAGA, or anything that resembles the Republican Party in the United States of America today. And then your other one is Dylan Roof, who murdered blacks at a church in Charleston, South Carolina in 2015 before Donald Trump even announced he was running for president. Barack Obama was in the White House. But let's talk about Dylan Roof real fast. If that's your best example, Dylan Roof was a loner. Dylan Roof was apparently on mind-altering drugs. There were grave concerns from his parents about the fact that he didn't have a job, that he stayed in the house all the time, that he was taking strong pharmaceuticals. He was radicalized by racist groups on the internet, not affiliated in any way with the Republican Party, with Donald Trump, with JD Vance, or with right-wing media. He consumed dark, dark, dark corners of the internet, not talk radio, not podcasts, or any mainstream conservative websites. And by the way, he was able to obtain his firearm for the mass murder in Charleston because of a lapse by James Comey's FBI at the time. And finally, and most importantly, when the horrific mass murder conducted by Dylan Roof against innocent black Christians worshiping a church occurred, Republicans spoke with one voice, condemning the violence, weeping and crying for our fellow Christians who were murdered in cold blood, condemning the murderer and not spending one syllable trying to rationalize or explain away what he had done. In fact, in the wake of those murders, many Republican lawmakers who held public office went out of their way to remove Confederate flags and Confederate symbols from their state houses, including Nikki Haley, the Republican governor of South Carolina. You really want to compare Dylan Roof and bring him up as an example? Because frankly, yes, I suppose you can find so-called people on the right, if you want to call Dylan Roof someone on the right. I mean, let's face it, he aligns himself with Nazis and with the Klan, two Democrat left-wing entities in this country. Oh, don't believe me? Take a look at the founding of the Klan. They sure weren't Republicans. And what is the S in Nazi National? The S stands for socialist. But that's fine. You really want to bring in Dylan Roof as an example, as a gotcha moment here, as right-wing extremist violence? You have to go back 10 years for it? Okay, fine. Because the real comparison is not what Dylan Roof did compared to what Charlie Kirk's murderer did. The real comparison is what people like you in the media did in rationalizing, excusing, and even mocking, and in some extreme cases on social media, celebrating what Charlie Kirk's murderer did. Compare that climate to what we on the right did when Dylan Roof murdered our fellow Christians in their church. There is no comparison. And I guarantee you, at no point did you have any media figure in talk radio, in podcasting. We didn't really have streaming 10 years ago. It's a new thing. Or anybody on Fox News Channel or any elected Republican. Not one of them sat in front of a camera and said, yes, what Dylan Roof did was wrong. But let's just be clear. both sides are guilty of this sort of thing. We have a problem on both sides. We didn't do that. And it's all you've done, Jessica. It's all you've done. We've been watching. Yeah, thanks for bringing up Dylan Roof. And thanks for conceding that you have to go 10 years ago to find an example of right-wing violence.
We can talk about that, but
Sure, go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, you want to talk about it?
I do.
Okay, there was not a relentless drumbeat for 10 years about his victim like there was here. There was an intent and a motive for her killing by her killer alone. It wasn't 5. It wasn't National Review. It wasn't any show going like, you know what? We need to go after this fascist. Hopefully someone will take her out. That never happened.
Guys,
that is why your analogy is so pointless and desperate.
Pipe bombs being sent to Democrats' houses. People saying in court, I was inspired by Donald Trump.
If you want to do this math, you're going to be embarrassed.
Brown people. According to you, I'm embarrassed every day. So frankly, I'm just feeling normal. Thank you.
We should do this every week.
Yes.
I honestly, it's first day of the week with Greg seems to go badly for me. So,
well, you don't come in here with both sides.
It's not.
It's like going into a funeral and saying, "Hey, let's have a kegger."
Well, sometimes you should just celebrate the life.
Dana, is it always like this?
You should see when I get going.
All right. Up next.
It was something. And maybe they should do this all the time, although honestly, with that voice, that grating, piercing, uncomfortable voice, and the nonsense that she spews, it may be great for ratings, and it may make Gutfeld look good. But honestly, as a viewer, it's not because she's from the left. It's because she's annoying as hell. As you know, in New Jersey and Virginia, next month is Election Day. Yeah, that's right. The first week of November, Election Day for governor in New Jersey and in Virginia. And we spent a lot of time talking about Abigail Spanberger and the fact that she can't give a straight answer on some pretty basic questions about gender ideology and about whether men should be allowed into women's locker rooms. She just can't quite get a handle on that issue. And her opponent, Winsome Earl Sears, based on the last poll, is just 5 points behind now, which is remarkable considering in May she was down by 20 points. That's really something. But guess what? It's nothing compared to what's going on in New Jersey and what the Democrat candidate said the other day when asked dead on by Charlemagne the God, did you make millions and millions of dollars through stock trades while you were in Congress? Her answer to that question is bonkers. You're going to see that in a second. But first, the big news this morning, shared by Donald Trump on Truth Social. Wow. Just Out poll has Jack Ciattarelli, that's the Republican nominee, essentially beating close to incompetent Mickey Sherrill in the race for governor of New Jersey. Jack is tough on crime, cutting taxes, two things that people really demand today. He will be a great governor, and Sherrill wants open borders, again, men playing in women's sports, transgender for everyone, and all the things that almost destroyed America. She's a big supporter of the perhaps future communist mayor of New York City. We need Jack in New Jersey. Signed, President DJT. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And yeah, the poll that just came out, it's an Emerson poll in New Jersey. Mickey Sherrill in a virtual dead heat with Jack Ciattarelli. And by the way, the reason that Trump says that he's essentially beating her is because Republicans notoriously get underpolled and underrepresented in states like New Jersey and in Virginia, especially by polling groups like Emerson. So that's huge. They're in a dead heat right now, basically 35 days from Election Day. Phenomenal. So how did we get here? Well, a couple things happened. And by the way, it's really important for you to know that this woman, Mickey Sherrill, she's in Congress right now. The media loves to call her a moderate. There's nothing moderate about her. Her voting record mirrors Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. She is just as left-wing and radical as they are. The difference is that she comes across more normal in an interview. And for the media, that's all that matters. Oh, well, she's moderate because she's not frickin' Looney Tunes like Maxine Waters and Bernie Sanders. No, she's not. She's frickin' Looney Tunes too. She just hides it better. So they finally had a debate the other day. And take a look at this moment in the debate where her opponent revealed something unbelievable about her stock trading while on the Armed Services Committee in the House.
It doesn't matter because I'm going to make sure that he doesn't get to serve again when I win for governor in November of this year.
There's another big difference between her public service and my public service. It actually cost me money the time I put in and took away from my company. In the 7 years that she's been in Congress, she's tripled her net worth. There's another big difference between the two of us, okay? She broke the law. She had to pay fines for violating federal law on stock trades and stock reporting, and the New York Times reports that while you're sitting on the House Armed Services Committee, you were trading defense stocks.
Now, that's a devastating gotcha in the middle of a political debate, and it resonated. And understand, I love that she did. She broke the law. She broke federal law with regard to sitting members of Congress and their stock trades. But because you're a member of Congress, the rules are a little different for you. Now, if you and I did that, we'd be behind bars. But if you're a member of Congress, you just pay a fine, and then we make it all go away. But make no mistake, she broke the law. Now, she denied it, and she hemmed and hawed, and she tried to use euphemisms. But it was during the debate. So the next day, after having a whole, actually, I think it's 2 days later, 48 hours to think about it, meet with her political advisors, come up with a strategy about how to explain all the millions of dollars she made through stock trades while she was on the Armed Services Committee. She had all that time to think about it. And then here she is on the Breakfast Club. Charlemagne the God asked her a simple question about it. I think since Charlemagne's a Democrat, he was trying to help her out. Okay, listen, you didn't have a good answer on this thing at the debate, but you've had your time now, and this is a friendly setting, left-wing radio show. So here, this is your chance. Shoot down this accusation. Kill it. Destroy it. Come on, let's go. Slow ball across the plate. Knock it out of the park. Is it true that you made all that money through trades, stock trades, while you were sitting on the Armed Services Committee? Explain it. Well, here's her explanation.
So when Newsmax claims that you made $7 million from stock trades, what are they talking about?
Newsmax is, first of all, a very questionable organization that is paying multiple fines. I'm not sure what they're talking about.
Well, did you make $7 million in stock trades at all? Or?
I haven't. I don't believe I did, but I'd have to go see what that was alluding to. Again, what kind of came from.
Okay, this is textbook. This is textbook Democrat privilege. So you have to understand something. Democrats never come on a show like this. They never come on Newsmax, the aforementioned. They very, 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 very rarely go on Fox News. And if they do, they try to control the terms of the interview and the timing and who interviews them. You remember during the presidential campaign, Kamala Harris appeared once. It was with Bret Baier. They told him he could have, I think half an hour. And at the last second, they said, no, you only have 15 minutes. Remember all of that? And she still was a disaster, by the way. This is Democrat privilege at its best. When you're a Democrat, you know going in that you've got the media on your side. And when you walk in and do an interview, whether it's with Chris Hayes or Rachel Maddow or Jake Tapper or George Stephanopoulos or Martha Raddatz, they're all on your side. They're trying to help you out. So she walks into Charlemagne the God, the Breakfast Club, and she didn't have to prepare. She didn't have to come up with a good answer. This is Democrat privilege. You don't even have to address any tough questions, right? I mean, after all, I'm a Democrat. This media is here for me to use. And so there's two sides to this that we're going to break down about how she employs that privilege. Here's the first.
So when Newsmax claims that you made $7 million from stock trades, what are they talking about?
Newsmax is, first of all, a very questionable organization that is paying multiple fines. I'm not sure what they're talking about.
Okay, so that's number one. Just trash the news source. By the way, Charlemagne did that on purpose. There's plenty of other news sources that he could have used to cite. He chose Newsmax for whatever reason, and it allowed her to be able to say, that's a Newsmax allegation. I don't need to answer that. After all, they're conservative. It's one of the reasons why the Trump administration is going out of their way to let outlets like ours into the White House briefing room and onto Air Force One, because we've been othered, we've been dehumanized, we've been degraded, we've been demeaned. But understand that she didn't actually address the question. She just attacked the source of the news. And this is where the second part of Democrat privilege comes in. She thinks that's enough. And normally it would be. But I guess credit where it's due to Charlemagne the God, because he just sort of wants some clarity here. Okay, so you didn't make $7 million in trades?
Well, did you make $7 million in stock trades at all? Or?
I haven't. I don't believe I did, but I'd have to go see what that was alluding to again.
Now, let me tell you something. I'm not a big stock trader. I'm really not. Most of my investments are all in my 401k and my retirement accounts. But even there, and you might be like me, I'm thinking you probably are. You check those accounts maybe every week or so because they're, long-term retirement accounts. And I ain't going anywhere for a while. You're not getting rid of me that fast. But still, you want to stay on top of it. You want to see what's going on. If you check and you make $700 in a day, you know it, don't you? I mean, if you made $7,000 in an investment, you'd know it, wouldn't you? Can you imagine living in a world where you're not sure if you made $7 million in investments or not? Now, either she is worth $500 million and 7 million is like, I don't know. But see, she's not. You see, for someone like Mickey Sherrill or for any upper class American, you know if you made $7 million in investments. She claims she's not sure. She'll have to get back to you on that. This woman is a disaster. And that's just the tip of a really, really pathetic iceberg. Check out this moment in the debate where she was asked if she would pledge not to raise taxes. Because, New Jersey is a lot of things, but one thing New Jersey isn't is undertaxed. People who live in New Jersey pay plenty of taxes. They've paid enough taxes. And they would like to know from their next governor that taxes aren't going to go up again. It's such an easy thing to do in a debate. And she failed.
I'm not going to commit to anything right now because I'm not just going to tell you what you want to hear.
So let me get this straight. She's not sure if she made $7 million in investments, and she refuses to commit to not raising taxes on the voters of New Jersey. It's really shocking to learn now that the polls are tied in a dead heat 4 weeks before Election Day. And then there was this great moment when, it's funny. This same thing is happening in Virginia with Abigail Spanberger, Mickey Sherrill in New Jersey. They're all watching this communist in New York do all of these videos. And he uses this market-tested, poll-tested word, affordability, right? I'm focused on affordability. I want to make sure things are affordable. Things aren't affordable. Well, of course, it's New York. You guys have been in charge for decades. Everything's more expensive in New York. But they've taken the lesson of Kami Mamdani and they think, oh, we have to use that word too, affordability. We have to work on making things affordable. Okay. Yet at the same time, both Mickey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger in Virginia have pledged to not allow any further gas or oil exploration in their states because of climate change. Well, what's that going to do to your energy costs? Certainly not make them more affordable. And this moment came up in the debate.
Going to do to tackle things like the grid operator, state mandates, and other impacts that rise our costs?
So, Michael, I don't think it's blame when you're giving facts, and here are the facts. When Phil Murphy took office, we were an electricity exporter. We produced more electricity than we needed. He shut down 6 different electricity generation plants. He put an unofficial moratorium on natural gas. He didn't expand our nuclear capabilities in South Jersey, zero carbon emissions. He didn't accelerate solar. Talk to solar developers who want to use the rooftops of warehouses, which is prime real estate for solar arrays. Didn't accelerate that. What he did do is he bet it all on wind. Now, if he was from New Jersey, and anybody who's from New Jersey would know that the Jersey Shore is sacrosanct here in this state. Nobody wants wind farms off our Jersey Shore. Male, female, young and old, Republican, liberal, conservative, liberal, for different reasons. What I've said all along is I'll reopen and repurpose the plants. We'll expand our nuclear footprint in South Jersey. We will accelerate solar on the rooftops of our warehouses, and we're pulling out of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. That carbon tax initiative has been a failure. Air's no cleaner, electricity's only more expensive, and we're not sending ratepayer dollars to other states. By pulling out of Reggie, we can save $500 million a year for ratepayers.
All right. So the question had to do with high electricity rates and energy rates in New Jersey. And you just heard a perfect explanation as to why those rates are higher. Because they closed down all these plants under the Democrat regime, all under the guise of green energy, opened up wind farms that make no sense at all in New Jersey. That has created skyrocketing energy costs. I will reverse that trend. I'll reopen the plants. We will reinstitute the supply. That will bring the rates down, and we will bring the rates down because that's what happens. You increase supply of a thing that is in demand, and the price of that thing goes down. You cut off supply, and the price keeps increasing. It's pretty basic. We learned it not in college, in high school. We learned this. So now here comes Mickey Sherrill's chance to address something that is very fundamental. Remember, she wants to make things affordable because we've got an affordability problem. So how is she going to make energy more affordable?
Thanks for the question. You know, anybody from New Jersey should know that this has been a long time in coming and that too many people have added to the problem. So whether it's PJM, the grid operator, or FERC, or BPU, whether it's President Trump rolling back some of the initiatives on solar or adding $250 per family to your energy bill, everybody at the table is at fault, and they keep dumping the costs onto the ratepayer here in New Jersey. That is why I'm freezing rate hikes on the ratepayer. Because let's face it, some of our utility companies have made over $1 billion in profits. And yet our ratepayers are constantly suffering. So I'm going to freeze those rate hikes by declaring a state of emergency. I'm going to add massive amounts of power into the grid. Right now, we need to produce power here in our state because the market has been screwed up by PJM and because Virginia has 1 million data centers, which are sucking all the power out of our market. So we need to produce here, lower cost here, and stop putting the cost on the ratepayers of New Jersey.
Right, but her environmental policies won't allow for oil, gas, or coal to be, and certainly not nuclear, to be used. So when she says we're going to make more, produce more power, she means solar and wind, which costs upside down what the other fossil fuels were cost. And also, did you catch that she's going to freeze energy prices? So understand something. Energy prices are too high. How are you going to help get them lower? And she says, I'm going to freeze them right where they are, which, by the way, is a government intervention. Whenever the government freezes rates on things, that's actually meddling with the free market, and the suppliers end up reacting to the rate freeze as well. Just let the market work and allow for more supply. But, you know, this woman who is now tied, which, by the way, means that she's losing in this race, she stands for things way more radical than just what you saw in these clips. Understand something. They keep calling her a moderate, but because she's raising money from LGBTQ activist groups outside of the state of New Jersey, she has to kiss the ring of their radical policies. So when asked about children being forced into transgender procedures in the state of New Jersey and parents wanting not to be forced to do that, here was her answer. Oh, actually, by the way, this goes well beyond just the transgender procedures. If parents want to opt their children out of instruction and curriculum that involves and plants the seed of gender transition with their children, here's what her policy is on that.
Should parents have the right to opt their kids out of LGBTQ-related content in the same way that right now they can be removed from sex ed and health curriculum classes?
Look, I believe that parents have the right to oversee their children's education. I would push an LGBTQ education into our schools, parents have a right to opt out of a lot of things, but this is not an area where they should be opting out, because this is an area of understanding the background of people throughout our nation. And right now we see, for example, at the Naval Academy, an erasure of history.
Steve Sweeney.
Yeah, she's a radical. She is a radical. But she does like to tout the fact that she graduated from the Naval Academy. And I have a soft spot in my heart for the Naval Academy. Let me just tell you something, that she is not a representative of the majority of people who have graduated from the Naval Academy, because she was given the opportunity as a member of Congress to join with Republicans and vote unanimously in honoring and condemning the murder, honoring the life of Charlie Kirk and condemning his murder. And she couldn't bring herself to do that. She calls herself a moderate, and she couldn't bring herself to condemn the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And here's why. She says, I've taken countless oaths to the Constitution throughout my life, starting when I entered the Naval Academy at 18. But she really likes to use that as a political, I volunteered to give everything up to and including my life for our freedoms, and I will always protect them. I took my oath to the Constitution seriously. I believe in free speech, and that the First Amendment wouldn't be necessary if it were only meant to cover language we agreed with. It's meant to protect people like Charlie Kirk who present vile dissenting views. So she couldn't just let him rest in peace. She couldn't let the rest of us mourn him. She couldn't let the other Republicans and like 170 Democrats acknowledge that his murder was horrible. No, she had to take this opportunity to say that he was vile and that his ideas were vile. In other words, she thinks you're vile. She's moderate, by the way. Don't forget, they'll keep calling her moderate, but it's also meant to protect teachers, doctors, and TV comedians who may express views the president doesn't like. Yeah, because the real victim in all of this is Jimmy Kimmel. Charlie Kirk was advocating for a Christian nationalist government and to roll back the rights of women and black people. This flies in the face of every value I hold dear and that I fight for. Of course, all of that is a lie. The Constitution protects free speech, even for those I vehemently oppose. Meanwhile, President Trump has and continues to define hypocrisy at every turn. So there you go. She then makes it all about Trump. That's her statement on the House passage of Charlie Kirk resolution that she voted against, while she continues to try to tell the people of New Jersey that she's a moderate. And that's why you see a poll like this, tied 43-43. Oh, and by the way, as they continue to call her a moderate, as she continues to present herself as a moderate, and as she continues to fall in the polls, as she calls you vile and divisive because you agree with Charlie Kirk and she can't bring herself to vote to honor him, it's worth noting what she has voted on in the House in the past, the kind of people's deaths and legacies that she has voted for. Like this. Tonight, we voted in the House to advance the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. One of the great disappointments of last session was that in a moment of national reckoning, Congress could not come together to address systemic racism in this country. That was March of 2021. Yeah, she was fine honoring the life and legacy of George Floyd. And by the way, in so doing, undermining policing across the country through federal mandates and federal funding that took money away from law enforcement and supported the district attorney across the country who put out criminals in cashless bail, who wouldn't cooperate with ICE law enforcement to deport illegal criminals and to make sure that criminals had every opportunity to walk the streets instead of spending time behind bars. That's what Mickey Sherrill did find an opportunity to vote for in the House. George Floyd Act, but not for the memory of Charlie Kirk, who she says is vile. That's why things are turning in New Jersey right now. Watch that race closely in the next 4 weeks leading up to Election Day, and keep watching Virginia as well. Things are looking good. Very good. All right, gang. Thanks for watching our show today. Sorry, I had a little cough there. Let's go to your super chats. We'll start with Rumble. $5 from Casparius. Dems, quote, they need to turn down the rhetoric, those evil gelato Nazi fascies, and we need to punch them in the face. Yeah, that's pretty much what they say. Gelato Nazi fascies? Another $5 from Casparius. Oh, no, that's the same one. And then a $2 super chat from Arthur Brogdon. Thank you. Save the cat, leave racist hate mongers with applause to Mario Puzo. Save the cat, leave racist hate monger.
Joy Reid.
Huh?
Joy Reid.
Well, that's
JD
Joy
Vance
Reid.
cat.
Oh, thank you. That's going back to the cat burning in the house. All right, thank you. I'm sorry. That seems like it was a day ago. Thank you, Arthur, for that. That's very funny. And I do like Mario Puzo. All right. What else have we got here? Kevin Levin, Revin, 7, Puddin' and Pie. That's my new name for you. It flows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I have a brother named Kevin.
I think of us as brothers as well, Larry.
I think it's more of an uncle-nephew thing.
Oh, yeah. Who's who in that situation?
Stumbleboots with the $2 super chat. Thank you, Clippy. Always makes me smile. You're cool, too. Thank you, Stumbleboots. Angela with $2 super chat. JD is great. 2028. President Trump without New York attitude. I'm liking JD Vance more and more. But we got a deep bench either way, and there's a lot of game to be played. But thank you, Angela. Lugan with a $9.99 super chat. How about you are just back from 16 days in Italy? Oh, I'm jealous. We're reminded how blessed we are for being Americans living in the USA. I do miss strong Americano coffee, but not uncooked pasta, aka al dente. Ugh. Uncooked pasta, that's not good. I'm going to be in Italy for like 2 days next month. But 16 days in Italy would be nice. Welcome home, though, Lou. Good to have you back. Oh, and Lugan with a $4.99 super chat. We saw lots of army men in the streets of 4 major Italian cities and no one protesting against them. Shame on those protesting against ICE. Yeah, you know, it's funny. You should say that. I noticed that. I was in Europe last month and I noticed that military often is a part of the keeping order in streets in cities in Europe. But apparently here it's fascism. Thank you, Lugan. Angela with a $5 super chat. Thank you. Message to leftist snakes. The truth hurts. Stop the violence and start praying. Stop sowing seeds of division and sow seeds of the seed. Jesus. You know, if I can do a quick plug, I'm on Mark Halperin's Next Up podcast tonight. That's part of the Megyn Kelly podcast network. And I made an observation. I haven't said this on this show yet, but the events of the last couple of weeks, Angela, really brought home the fact that the left, they truly don't understand us. They don't listen to us. They have never paid attention to us because they've been told by the mainstream corporate legacy media and by academia and by Hollywood that our opinions and our ideas are not worthy of their consideration. That's why when you see Meet the Press, you don't see a 50-50 roundtable of half of them holding the ideas and opinions that we hold, like half of the country holds, and the other. No, you're lucky if there's one at the table. Usually there's no one at the table. On Meet the Press, the one Republican voice is Steve Hayes, who is a never Trumper, right? So first of all, they don't hear us. They don't listen to us. They don't believe that we're worthy of being listened to. That's why they were all so surprised that the memorial for Charlie Kirk didn't turn into some hate fest, right? That's what they kept hearing. Oh, it's going to be a hate fest. It's going to be red meat and it's going to be politics. It's going to turn into a rally. And that's not who we are. That's not what we do. And if they knew us, if they had any understanding of who we are, they would have known that that's not what it was going to be. And I made this point on Halperin's show tonight. So watch the podcast. It's actually a good interview, I think. Not because of me, but because Halperin's a good interviewer. I said, you know, I'm looking in the rearview mirror now, recognizing that the political left and the media in this country have never understood me. And I remember it goes all the way back to when we had conversations in this country in the 90s about abortion. And they came up with this term, the left did and the media did, of the war on women, that promoting pro-life causes was a war on women. See, those of us who want the unborn to survive the process of birth and live, we truly do care about that baby. We want that baby to live. We don't want that baby to be murdered. We care about the mother too. We don't want the mother to go through this traumatic physical, mental, and emotional experience of having their baby extinguished and murdered, because we know that that has huge physical and mental and emotional ramifications. And we don't want that woman in such desperate straits to only have one option in front of them, which is, oh, let's just take care of that problem. We want them to actually explore the idea of having that baby and letting that baby live. That, and it's because, by the way, science backs up the fact that that is a human life that deserves protection. But our faith also informs us that that is a God's creation that deserves protection. That's who we are, and that's what we believe, and we always have believed that. But I'll never forget in the 90s when that position that I just articulated to you was reduced to, it's a war on women, and it has nothing to do with the baby. It has to do with men trying to control women's bodies. And they really believed that. And it never struck me back then at the time how reductionist it was, and how reductive it was, and how demeaning and insulting it was, because they truly never comprehended, and still don't comprehend, that we're sincere. We really do care for that baby. We want that baby to live. And it is not even worthy of debate that in some way it's really just us flexing our misogyny and we're trying to control women's bodies. So I don't know what triggered that in what you wrote here, Angela, other than the fact that this is where we need to get better. This is where the conversation needs to be had in this country. And we need to keep pushing for our legitimacy in the public square. And that, by the way, is tied directly with what Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, has been saying about these broadcast networks and the local broadcast stations needing to serve the public. They are public airwaves, and they are not serving the public by having a one-sided political and cultural conversation. And it's why many of us do, in fact, want a seat at that table. Only then can we actually have a conversation in this country. And when you start to understand who we are, I'm not asking you to agree with me. That'll come, I promise. The more you think and the more you explore these ideas and you hear these ideas, you'll come around. I believe that. But I don't need to try to convince you. I just want to be heard. Because the more you hear me, the more you hear our ideas, and you are forced to, at the very least, respect our right to hold our ideas, the harder it becomes to try to put a bullet in our head for those ideas. That's why it serves the public interest. Okay. Didn't know I was going to do a second segment there during Super Chat time. God's best friend with a 2-pound Super Chat, Jimmy Kimmel, choked thinking about the goldfish. Should I understand that?
I don't get it either, but thank you.
Thank you, God's best friend. You were heard. Just not understood. Lou Gunn is definitely back with all the Super Chats. Are these in dollars or euro? $4.99. Hey, Jimmy K. Asking forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean one's actually repentant. Jessica Tarlov's to blame if Gutfeld ever has a heart attack. Oh, I think Gutfeld is feeling just fine, but you're right. Jeffrey Jordan, any relation to Jim? $5 Super Chat. Double standards. The Democrats are a drunk Fred Astaire, and the Republicans have to be Ginger Rogers at her peak, dancing backwards in high heels. Nice reference. Well done, Jeffrey. Thank you for that. Richard Murray with a $10 Super Chat. Thank you, Richard. Racism is not a right-wing value. That was started by Southern Democrats to justify slavery and segregation. Marx and Engels introduced the concept of a Jewish problem in their writings. You're right. You're right. I stipulated the idea that Dylan Roof was right-wing extremism, which it is not. But I stipulated it just to emphasize the point that even that they can't get right. But you're right, Richard. Thank you for that. Lou Gunn with a $1.99 Super Chat. Charlatan the fraud. That's what I call him. I know. Charlatan the fraud, not Charlemagne the god. Angela with a $5 Super Chat. We know left-wing Looney Tunes are bad, but we pray and remember God's got it. We don't take lives, damage property, threaten those we disagree with. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you. God's best friend with a 2-pound Super Chat. I didn't notice $7 million in my account either. Isn't that the best? So did you make $7 million in stock trades? I'm not sure. Dude, you want her in charge of the state of New Jersey's budget and finances? I would think she should be sure about $7 million. Patrick with 10 pounds. Are you in Birmingham? Are you one of our Birmingham watchers? I think you are. Did you pick up on what Tarlov said of the shooter and ICE during her rant? Maybe he just used his eyes and saw what was going on. Oh, I missed that. That is a tacit endorsement of his motive. She should be fired. I missed that.
He's not wrong.
Well spotted, Patrick. You want me to roll on it?
Yeah.
It's a long clip, dude.
I don't remember where it is.
Ugh.
We don't.
That's
What do you
not-
want?
What do I want? I would like to talk about the specifics of who Vance Bolter
Hold on. It must be earlier than that.
of we are at war. And that does permeate the entirety of American society, that they hear that from the top. We don't
That's
know
garbage.
that much.
That is
It's not-
absolute garbage.
It is
Continue. When something terrible happens
Greg-
to when somebody gets murdered, you are saying, "How dare you be enraged by it?" Continue.
No,
I'm done.
what I say is, how dare
There is no.
you
I'll give you the both.
blame
No, Jessica, I'll give you the
millions of-
both sides.
Greg, why don't
I
you
agree
let
with
me
you.
finish?
There
We
is
did
both
this
sides.
just a week
On
ago.
one hand, you have the hard left, and on the other hand, you have the left.
Why are you
They're the both sides of the same coin because you walk into this room.
Yeah, it's going to be too hard to find it. Do you remember where it was? I don't know.
No,
But
no,
if
off the top of my head.
If that's there, I want to find. Maybe we'll try to pull it out and we'll put it out there as a separate clip on the town hall account. Thank you, Truman Show, with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Larry, for being extremely transparent. It is very refreshing. Thank you so much. Are you? Can you see through me again? It always freaks me out when people can see like through my flesh. How am I being? Was I transparent today? You're welcome, Truman Show. Psychological projection is £2. I don't believe I did is your deniable denial. I don't believe I did. There you go. I don't know what that's referring to. I did.
That was a reference to the Charlemagne the God clip.
Oh yeah, I don't believe I did. Did you make $7 million? I don't believe I did.
I thought it was more than that, actually.
Yeah, it could have been 27. Truman Show, $5 super chat. I'm going to always pray. I'm going to pray. I'm going to thank God, and I'm going to kiss my kids. And if I kick, and if
rocks.
What is that?
Kick rocks. It's euphemism.
Oh,
for
kick
pepper.
rocks. I didn't see that as a rock. All right, Truman. I like Truman Show, and I like the Gucci bloom as well.
I love that I have to translate some of these things for you.
I couldn't see that it was a rock. It's all like touch grass. Lou Gum with the $4.99 super chat. The number one strategy of radicals is to lie about everything, especially their own radical identities, beliefs, and wrongs. Yeah, they do have to lie, in fact, because the second the American people and the voters and the viewing public actually learn what they believe and what they stand for, it's over. That's why Abigail Spanberger can't answer the basic question. It's such a simple question. We haven't shown you the latest one of these. Can I do this real fast, Kevin?
Please.
We're in overtime right now. We're celebrating our super chats. I want to give the super chats as much time as possible. She did it again. She was asked about the transgender policy in schools. It's such a simple question. Hang on. Just wait for it. Wow. Hang on.
You looking for the Nick Minaj video?
No, there's a new one. There's a new one. It's out of I think it was Lynchburg, Virginia. Here it is. Here we go. This is amazing. So she's asked again by a second reporter. Oops. Hang on. By a second reporter. I think she's from the left, this reporter, because she used the term transgender women, which I think is a key. It's kind of a clue. So she's had months to come up with this answer. By the way, we know the answer is yes, because she voted for it in Congress. It seems so that was the question. Do you support transgender women in sports and in locker rooms? And part of the reason why this is an issue is because in Arlington, Virginia, a repeat sex offender was arrested for exposing himself in front of a little girl in a school locker room. And he's like 50, and he claims that he's transgender. And so now they don't know what to do with him because of their policies. Okay, so number one, that's a lie. Number two, think this through logically for a minute. So every school district is able to make this decision based on their knowledge of the sport and of the child. So a school district down in Southern Virginia decides, no, we don't want any men playing in any women's sports. But a school district up in Fairfax County says, oh, yeah, we're fine with all the men. So how can they both be right? And, oh, the parents get involved in the decision. Oh, really? Okay. So if I'm a parent and my 14-year-old girl is in a locker room and there's a fully intact biological 17-year-old boy taking off his clothes in front of her and exposing his penis to her against her consent, but it's allowed because the other parents all said they didn't mind it. Well, I don't think this is really up to the majority to decide that my 14-year-old girl can be sexually assaulted. Think this through logically. Abigail Spanberger is basically saying that 14-year-old girls can be sexually assaulted in a public school locker room as long as the majority of parents in that school system and community are okay with it. So that's the beginning of her non-answer, which is based on total nonsense and a lie.
Families from parents.
There you go. It's the pivot. She's going to pivot now to affordability and say, oh, my opponent doesn't want to talk about these things. Okay, then she goes on and on and on about that. And then the reporter, bless her heart, says, well, that was just a bunch of word salad and you didn't answer the question. But I wanted to show you this clip is because of our super chat that we just had, which is people on the left who support ideas and policies that are illogical, that are wrong, that are immoral, and don't pass the basic 80-20 smell test that Americans have been facing now, where most of us are on the 80% side and they are on the 20% side. They cannot just simply tell you that they support those policies and lay out for you exactly what they mean. They have to give you that. They have to give you that garbage. That's why Kamala Harris gave all the words out. It's not because she's dumb. It's because she knew that if she spoke plainly about what they were really going to do, she'd lose. And we saw through it with her, and hopefully the people of Virginia will see through it with Abigail Spanberger. PN 2016 with a very generous $20 super chat. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Well, you know, PN 2016, I really appreciate that, and God bless you for that. I feel bad taking your $20 in Charlie's name, and I appreciate it, and I will try to live up to that. Sir Thomas Moore with a $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. One of my favorite saints, because he fought against the Protestants and lost his head, but he stood for what was right. All right. Anything else we got, Kevin? Now
No,
that
sir.
I've alienated all the Protestants in our audience. Ah, what a day. Thank you. That was a marathon super chat session, but we value your super chats and we love you for giving them to us. So thank you for that. And we always spend a lot of time enjoying them and acknowledging you and engaging with you. Thank you for that. We will be back tomorrow with a special. Is our friend Chris DeGaulle joining us tomorrow?
I do not believe so.
Ooh, oh, that's right. He's traveling to DC tomorrow. I get to see him on Saturday. All right, then we'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.